Welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie.
1, 0, all engine running.
Greetings and welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie. My name is Jason.
And I'm Rich.
And I'm Chris.
And this time it's Horace. And at the top of the show, as always, I would like to give a massive shout out to our supporters, Andrew and Tristan. Thank you so much, guys. You are amazing people. And if you would like to do the same, you too can join the Wolfie Club, where you can join a membership starting from just £1, or you can just give us a one-off donation to the show. Head on over to buymeacoffee.com/the Wolfie Pod to see all the options. Now, we have a special show lined up for you this time, and this is the first of 2 shows for us this week, as we are also recording tomorrow with Sonic the Comic Podcast's very own Dave Bulmer about the mags and comics of the 1990s, which I'm hoping to get out to you all by the middle of next week. But right now, we are joined by the developers of Horace, a narrative challenging platformer video game created by Paul Helman and coded by Scaplehorn.
A couple of days later, the old lady said she had a surprise for me. My own room. She also wanted to play me some music. I wasn't sure after what Mr. Silton had shown me. As if music wasn't amazing enough, the old lady then bought me a television set. I couldn't believe what I saw. I watched everything I could. Comedy, drama, horror, sci-fi. Anything anyone wanted to watch, I would happily watch with them. Then one day, the old man set up a small box. He plugged some cables into the television and said, "This is what I meant when I said video games." I played games at every chance I could. I took on everyone. I was unstoppable. I had enjoyed music, film, and television. But to me, video games really were the highest art form.
Welcome to the show, chaps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
No worries. It's a big pleasure to have you on the show. So very excited to get some questions at you and find out a little bit about Horace and also about your some of your favourite 90s stuff. But you guys may not know this, but we have a little tradition on this show.
Now this is good.
Should we be worried?
No. You two are safe. You two are fine.
Right.
You know, Rich knows what's coming.
Yeah.
And that little tradition is like, you know, before we do anything else, I have that one question to ask, the one on the tip of everyone's tongue, the one that's put everyone on the edge of their seat. It is, of course, what's in your glass, Rich?
Well, this week I'm drinking a nice barrel-aged dessert in a can. It is a coconut chocolate chip cookie stout, 11.5%, and it is delicious. I'll give it a nice 9.3, I think.
Amazing. What the perfect way to end a hard-working day.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, Paul and Sean, are you into your, you know, interesting flavoured beers at all?
I've got to say personally, I don't drink.
Fair enough.
Not to ruin the mood. I'm more of a Coca-Cola and fruit juice man myself.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and if I have anything, it'll probably be one of those fruity ciders.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Like dark fruits.
That's the stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. No, nothing as outrageous as what Rich likes to bring to the show then.
No, they sounded very interesting, though.
Yeah. Is it, you know, very strongly, but was it coconut, did you say?
Yeah, coconut chocolate chip cookie.
Mm-hmm. Is it kind of like a very strong coconut-y, or?
A bit. I actually detest coconut, so it's just kind of there in the background. So it's not overpowering.
Beautiful. Fair enough. Well, if you're only interested, then I'm sure your local independent beer-loving shop will stock some of these. What was the brewery again? I know it, but I can't remember.
This is Armandson. Yeah.
That's it, Armandson Brewery.
You won't get these in your local Londis, so...
No, definitely not. Paul and Sean, before we talk about Horace, could you tell us a little bit about your history in gaming? Starting with Sean?
Right, well, yes, I've been professionally involved in gaming since 1997, I think it was. So over 20 years now, which is scary to think. But yeah, basically the first computer I had was a Commodore VIC-20, and that's where tell a lie. The first kind of games machine I had was one of those old Binatone things, the Pong.
Yep.
But it was one that had a light gun as well.
Fancy.
Very fancy. The graphics were great in that it was just a white square bouncing around a screen that you could shoot. And nobody could actually play it from like a proper distance. So the only way to play it was to have the gun like about an inch away from the screen and just go. But no. So that dalliance aside, VIC-20, Commodore 64, Amiga's very much a Commodore man. Finally sort of ended up with a PC far too late. I think I had the Amiga still going until probably a year or so before I joined Picture House. So 95 or something. So it was quite a late departure of the Amiga. So first game I worked on was a game called Terracon, which was a PlayStation 1 game, which was where I met Paul. And over the years, we worked on a number of different games together, haven't we, at different places. We worked on some of those little plug-in games that you could plug straight into the TV, the plug-and-play ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Done a stint doing mobile games for a while. So a bit of everything, really.
And is there... when you look back on your career, is there any like a high point that you look back on fondly?
Probably Horace, to be fair, because it's the game I've had most involvement with. From not from the beginning, because Paul had been working on it for years before I got involved. But that's definitely my high point.
Excellent. And what about yourself, Paul?
I've been I'm trying to do this in the same order that Sean did. I've been making games professionally since 1995. Literally 2 weeks ago, I've been making games for 27 years now. The first game I worked on was Die Hard Trilogy for the PS1, which was all sorts of fun and pretty good way to learn game development. I predominantly worked in art. I sort of still do, but I can kind of do everything now, thanks to Horace. But through, that was with Probe Entertainment, who of course did Mortal Kombat and various other ports of arcade games and films and other interesting stuff. But I then met a chap called Simon Pick, who was the lead coder on Die Hard. He formed a company called Picture House, which is where I then met Sean, where we made the aforementioned Terracon, which nobody remembers, but it was a very good game. In a similar way to Sean, I then sort of drifted around doing some freelance work for 15 years, where, similarly worked on some plug and play stuff. I had the honour of making some background elements on the absolutely terrible Doctor Who. Was it a Wii game? Yeah, it was a Wii game.
I think that's what you said.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's literally in most people's like top 20 worst game ever lists.
I've never played it, so
I wouldn't recommend it.
It's not worth blowing the dust off a weed for.
I feel awful saying this because all I did was make some background bits, but I just find it hilarious that one of the things I worked on was one of the worst games ever.
So something definitely cool to put on your CV.
Yeah, well, this is it. My CV has some big, well, not big titles, but some well-known sort of titles and stuff. Because I worked on like a high school musical educational game and like various other like well-known IPs. But that's kind of why I then wanted to make Horace to have something that was mine. So yeah, for about 2010, I started on Horace by myself. I downloaded Game Maker and fumbled my way through from coding I'd learnt on a Commodore 64, basically. Weirdly, it sort of worked somehow, and I managed to put a demo together. But that was when I decided that I needed to do it more properly, and wanted to get a publisher involved so I could get some finance. Basically so that I could pay Sean to do all the stuff that I couldn't do so well. Otherwise I'd still be making it now. It would, yeah, the rate I was working, give me another 5, maybe 10 years, I might have got it finished. But yeah, having Sean on board literally cut my workload in half. Well, obviously having two of us makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's amazing what an extra pair of hands make.
Exactly.
Paul, I'm going to be a bit of a fanboy, actually. I'm going to ask you, as someone you kind of shaped my Christmas of 1996, and I was kind of obsessed with Die Hard trilogy, which I got that Christmas. So it's kind of weird talking to you. It's quite amazing. So thank you. But can I just ask you what your favourite part of the whole production was, and were you like a fan of the films at that point? And yeah.
As I have great joy in telling people, I was 17 when I started working at Probe, and my job for 6 months was to watch the films over and over and literally grab textures and use Photoshop to create textures for the game. The main thing which is obviously quite funny about that is all the films were 18 certificates. So I was paid on a daily basis for 6 months to break the law.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Baz, what did you actually put? So you watched the films for that, and I mean, what was your most favourite part of working on those games? Was it working on like the first one, or the second, or the third one, or was it like a collaboration of all of them?
I mean, all of them were quite fun to work on. I mean, in the first and second one, I am actually a terrorist, because all of the
oh my god,
all of the characters are, of course, the dev team, badly photographed and scanned in using 1995 technology. So yeah, I'm one of the evil-looking chaps with long hair. Despite being 17, apparently I look like a terrorist, which was interesting.
They come at all ages. Come on.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough.
I can't believe I've shot you. It's so bad. I feel terrible. So sorry.
I'm sure you shot me plenty of times. I'm sure I would have been pointing a gun at you at the time anyway. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, it's all good.
And which I'm just intrigued. Like, did you get sick of watching the films? Can you not look at Die Hard now? Or
yeah, I can barely watch them now. I really, really liked the first one. Like, I can remember watching the first and second one not long before I started, because obviously this was in a time when films would take 5 years to get on the telly.
Sure.
So of course Die Hard and Die Hard 2 had literally only just hit the telly around that sort of time. So they were definitely in my sort of top 20, if not top 10 films at the time. By the end of 1995, it was practically seared into my brain.
It's ruined your Christmas.
Yes, very much so.
I enjoyed mine while you ruined yours, so that's good. So.
The prices you pay to develop games.
Indeed.
Sean, I've heard that you worked on a port of Metal Gear Solid. What was that about?
Yes, so that was during the mobile stint. Nobody in this country will have ever played it because it was only available in Japan, and I think it might have been in the US as well. But yeah, that was an interesting and fun thing to be working on. So we made something that was very similar in style to the PS1 Metal Gear Solid. So it was 3D and everything, but running on devices at the time, which were these a category of phone called a brew phone, and that was basically the operating system that was in it. Was this thing called Brew, and it was quite popular in Japan. So that was why we were developing it for that. So that was fun. I got to meet Hideo Kojima in a meeting and swap business cards with him, which was fun. Scary too, because you weren't sure whether you were doing it right. Like holding the business card in both hands and bowing and all this stuff.
I can imagine there's one thing working on a port of the Wii Doctor Who game and and porting Metal Gear Solid, and then if you met the creator of the Doctor Who game, I'm sure he's a very nice person, but then meeting Kojima, who created this this big massive franchise, this big massive popular game, must have been quite scary. Yes, it was quite nerve-wracking, but it wasn't. I mean, it was nerve-wracking just because fanboy kind of is Kojima. Selfie. Yeah, precisely. But I think it was I don't think they'd even formed Kojima Productions at that point. I think it was still just Konami. Or if it wasn't kind of a big deal. It was Kojima Productions. It was like, just what it was. But, so that involved a couple of trips to Japan, which was nice to be done on an expensive trip to Japan. Can't complain at that. Did you get time to explore the town, or was it literally in meetings out? The first trip was mostly meetings in and out, and it was kind of annoying because there was one day at the end of the trip, and where we were staying just down the road from where we were, because we were staying in I've forgotten the name of the place, but the place that you'll know that's got the massive zebra crossings that cross diagonally in the middle. I forget what it's called. But anyway, just up the road from there was a museum, and they had a Escher exhibition on. I thought, that'd be good to go and see. So it was all ramped up to go and see it, and then the boss decided, no, we're all going out for sushi tonight. And it's like, yeah, I've had sushi 5 times in the last 2 weeks, and I'd rather go and see Escher. Yeah. Did you get to see it? No, unfortunately, no. At that point, that was the last night we were there, so that was the only opportunity, really. But But the second time I went over, we went over to Kyoto as well, so I got to experience the bullet train. Nice, which was good. That's the funniest experience ever, going on a bullet train, because you get on and it feels like you're on an aeroplane. The way it's built inside, it's like an aeroplane with the big sort of windows, great big thick walls and so on. But the conductors are brilliant. They come through. The door opens and the conductor walks through. He bows to everybody and then walks through the carriage. If he needs to inspect tickets, he'll do all that. But he walks through the carriage, gets to the other door, turns around, bows to everyone, and then walks out.
Wow. You wouldn't get that on Southeastern.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, and the funniest thing about it is nobody looks up. Nobody acknowledges him doing this at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many carriages are on this train? There must be a few.
Quite a few, yeah. It stretched on a long way. I couldn't hazard a guess, but it was pretty big.
Wow.
That's really interesting and crazy. I mean, it must take him to the next station to do that on each carriage.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Well, moving on to Horace, Paul, you've kind of already mentioned a little bit on how Horace, came to be and everything. But can you tell the listeners a little bit more about the game and kind of what to expect from it?
Well, it's a very large platform adventure game with a very large story.
That's fair.
There's what are we talking? 4 hours of cutscenes, I believe. Just to really put people off that don't like cutscenes. But the game is 20-25 hours for the main story, and we've had people sink 50-60 hours into it trying to get the alternate ending. Obviously, I don't want to spoil anything. But it's the story of a small yellow robot in a little blue hat. And his adoptive family, and how they all get separated, and how he finds them all again and saves the day. And there's lots of action and adventure along the way.
And it's fair to say it's challenging in its platforming and its bosses.
Yes, I'm sure you could say that. I always forget to say that. It never felt particularly hard to me until we released it, and then all that anyone said was, "Wow, this is really hard." But yeah, it's. I don't necessarily think it's punishingly hard. There's plenty.
I don't think it's unfairly hard, is it? It's all doable. No.
Yeah,
no, that's fair.
I mean, that can be a pretty terrible game sometimes, but I've managed to eat past things that would give me, a bit of grief. And then what I kind of like about it, it's got that similar kind of gameplay loop as like games like Celeste, where you just are so invested in it, you just keep on trying again. It never once have I felt, a bit hacked off by it and rage quit. I just keep on going. And
awesome.
So that's a credit to you guys. That's
one thing I was going to bring up.
Game design.
That memory of like all the little stages being repeated until you get it right. The amount of times I've obviously hit electricity or fallen in water, and then all of a sudden you crack it and you're like, oh, yes. That feeling, isn't it? Like, I haven't got to do that again.
That's one of the most rewarding things about it. Obviously the story is very rewarding, but the actual platforming, when you actually manage to do section that's just been a complete arse, it's such a great feeling.
Well, that's something which I really wanted to offer the player, is that instant restart. When you die, there's no press the X button to continue.
Yeah.
Here's a load of animation and loading screens and stuff. It's no, straight back in. I never wanted it to feel frustrating, and I always wanted to reward the player with more gameplay and story. So hopefully, any point that you do get stuck and then finally manage to get through, at least hopefully you'll feel rewarded. I think that's the right thing to say.
Definitely.
Yeah, and like where you mentioned about the instant instant restarts as well, really helps to keep you in the game.
Yes.
Like you say, the more stuff that's in there with cutscenes or more button presses or whatever, it takes you away, and especially that kind of game where you really just want to get back to that point again so you can try that again.
Yeah.
So having that instant respawn feature in the game was perfect.
I became very particular, as I'm sure you noticed, there's no loading screens, there's no on-screen prompts, there's only ever voiceover in subtitles or real-world prompts. Because as you say, I never wanted to take the player out of the game. I always wanted the player to be in the world of the game, so to speak. And obviously having the robot narrate everything that happens makes it quite easy to describe everything. I know some people aren't too keen on his voice, but I think most people seem to like him.
I think there's a real charm to it. I've seen those same people as well, but I just find there's a real warmth to it. I think it's really lovely.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, I was going to say, I've been told by my wife and many people close to me that I'm quite a sensitive person, and I will cry at a lot of things. And one thing I've noticed with Horace is that is one of the most engaging, emotional stories I've honestly ever experienced in a video game. I mean, I put up there with the likes of like What Remains of Edith Finch, Firewatch, Celeste, which I've already mentioned. How long did it take you to write? And without going into, real personal details, outside of the pop culture references, what from your own, lived experiences did you put into the story, to kind of give it that emotional, resonance, I guess?
It took me a long time to write the story. I think I literally started writing it almost as soon as I sort of came up with the idea of a little robot and stuff, which would have been 2010 or 11. And I was still tweaking the script and adding jokes and stuff like a week and a half before we released the game.
Wow.
So, yeah, we're talking 8-9 years.
Jeez.
I mean, the core script was finished by 2015 when we were picked up for funding and stuff. But as I say, yeah, I was still tweaking it as we went. And as far as how much of it is biographical, whichever, I never know which one of those words is the right one. The
Same here,
thing
same
about
here.
me, it's quite autobiographical. I mean, the robots, everything he thinks, and subsequently the voiceover and everything, is essentially my innocent thoughts. Everything I could think of being naive to a situation, so to speak. Whereas, of course, there's another character in the game called Mr. Silton, and he's literally the opposite. I'm sure you've noticed, because you don't have to get more than about 10 minutes into the game to realise he's the polar opposite to the character. So yeah, he's my more nasty thoughts, shall we say. So that was the two sort of key components to it, I think. And then all the other characters.
Yin and yang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then all the other characters kind of lie somewhere in between. I mean, obviously there are villains in the story, but I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, but I mean, Mr. Stilton is, I don't know, he's still likeable.
Yeah.
Despite it all, he is, isn't
Yeah,
he?
exactly. There's still that kind of little bit of charm to him that warms you to him in some ways, and testament to the writing of the character.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I think my favourite Silton moment is the right early on when he's saying about the post office robbery, and it pans out and you see the side of his van. I think that just sums him up perfectly.
I picked it up really early on about the mushrooms and the weed delivery guy.
yeah,
I was just like, where is this going? It just cracked me up.
Yeah, that was the idea. I wanted him to appear quite dodgy from the off, shall we say?
yeah.
And I will say, you listed a snort laugh from me on the train when I met Mr. Anton Deck. I died of that. I thought, I'm playing a Nintendo game, on a Nintendo machine. I'm not thinking, why are we getting Anton Deck references? Gaming has really moved on since I was a kid. It's just...
That's what I said to Rich and Jason yesterday. I was like, I'm 5 minutes in and there's already an Anton Deck gag.
You're like a lapsed gamer as well, so you're like, what have I missed in all these years?
Yeah, and then it goes straight into some Swado Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide stuff, and I'm like, oh my god. It's like, 10 minutes I've been playing this game.
He's in love with it already, aren't you?
Yeah, I haven't got far through it, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've already mentioned, it's quite a challenging platformer, and I was quite intrigued. At any point when you was making Horace, did you actually say to yourself at any point that I'm being a bit mean here in these sections, or were you like, nah, just let them sweat?
Yeah, probably a little bit mean. Dean, our producer, was often my sounding board because obviously he was in the project, but outside of me and Sean. So about once a month, he would come down to me to like play through the game and see what we've been up to and sign our paycheck. And he did call me sadistic on more than a number of occasions. But this is it. I thought I'd ironed that out because he'd, pointed out the bits where I was being sadistic. So I, gave the player a restart point and an extra shield, and I thought that'd be enough.
From my point of view, I think the pair of you are both as bad as each other. It seems to be cool. Yeah, whatever we came up, it was Dean. I remember sort of Dean saying, "No, make it harder, make it harder."
Yeah. Oh, Dean was always for more projectiles, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he loved his bullet hells. Yeah.
Yeah. More fireballs, more explosions.
I'm glad you didn't listen to him. I think there was enough in there.
Yeah.
I guess that's a real kind of. I mean, that's what I find to be a really. You handled that juggling act really well, and that I think you've got a game that is very emotive in its storytelling. I think you can kind of fall into a trap where there's certain people that are so invested in the story but might struggle with the game and then end up not playing it and then missing out on that story.
Yes.
I think, you hit that right mark where it's rewarding people for their investment in said story. Again, I go back to Celeste. I do think there's lots of parallels. I think it spurs you on with the whole emotive narrative to keep on playing because you want to see the hero's journey. You want to see them. Yeah, I think it's just fantastic because I think if the story wasn't as strong as it was, I think it'd be much easier for some people to maybe think, sod this, I'm gonna go play something that's got accessibility options. I don't know. It's just I can be quite a shit gamer sometimes. I won't lie, but at no point have I thought, sod this, because I am so wrapped up in the story.
Well, yeah, because even like through some of the harder levels or even some of the bosses, and you kind of see them and you're like, well, how the hell am I supposed to do that?
Yeah, like the snake boss that I had on the way home today, that peed me off massively.
the one made of crates.
Yeah, and the basketballs, and I was effing and jeffing on the train. I got past it about 10 minutes to go before my train stopped, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. At least you could save your spot.
Exactly.
But
I think that is the first main... No, sorry, I was just going to say that. That is the first main challenge in the game, though, I think.
That's good.
That's the real... How much have you been paying attention to all the gameplay thus far?
Awesome.
But that was, I mean, and that's a good show of the perseverance side of it. You just need that little bit of perseverance just to keep trying and trying and trying. Yeah. And eventually it will pay off. So something else I was quite intrigued about, and that's obviously the junk collecting that's involved quite heavily within the game. But where did that inspiration come from to include it?
The first game I believe I ever bought with my own money, my pocket money, when I was 9. 9. Was Jet Set Willy 2, which is of course a pre-Mario platformer. The little stick man with a little hat walking around a large house picking up rubbish. So I was like, hang on, I could make a game about a little man in a hat walking around a big house picking up rubbish. And yeah, it kind of spawned all out of control from there, basically. Yeah. I always liked the old ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, almost monochrome early platformers like Monty on the Run, Jet Set Willy, obviously Manic Miner and stuff. Just because each screen was just that challenge. It was like, work this out, done it, on to the next one. And it always just, I don't know, it always just felt like constant, like, rewards. I don't know, I guess that's literally what I wanted to get into Horace was, I don't know, I think we ended up with around 350, if not 400, different gameplay areas, like rooms and like sections. Wow. And obviously some of them, you can pretty much walk through one door, walk to the right and out through another door. But I wanted that constant sense of achievement of, here's a little area. Oh, here we go. We've completed that little area. On to the next little area. With obviously an incredible amount of story linking it all together.
Yeah, I will say for that, because when I've been playing it, every time I do get past a really challenging point, I finding myself in a new room. It almost is like it's almost like an exhale. It's like, and you feel good about it, and you feel that progression just from a single static graphic of a room, and I think it's just really, really well done. It's kind of like a pat on the back, because you're just seeing another room in the house or another location outside. I think that's it's just really, really great. I'm a big fan of exploring in games. Weirdly, I'm not a huge fan of open world games because I prefer linear narrative and stuff.
I get that.
But I do love climbing things to find a secret door and all that sort of stuff.
That's it. I personally, I'd much rather play something that's got a good story to it than just constantly playing Call of Duty forever and more. So
can't agree more.
Definitely.
With your general.
Yeah.
With the inclusion of like the boots and everything, I mean, was it always your intention to have it be quite a gravity physics based kind of game, or were you originally going to go very traditional platformer? How did that kind of come about and evolve?
When I started making the demo, as I say, I essentially taught myself some coding to do it. And I just basically got character walking around, jumping on things, or jumping over things. I didn't want to rip off Mario like everyone does. But this was it. I then started coming out with some ideas for some power-ups, and I had, flying, swimming, other interesting things to navigate through a world. And one thing which I thought of, I'd been playing Mario Galaxy 2 at the time, and I thought, hey, this would kind of work in 2D, just walking around the contours of the edge of stuff. And then I had to spend 6 months working on the demo, trying to work out actually how you do that in 2D. Going from someone who, as I say, had done little more than 10 print, hello, my name is Paul, 20, go to 10. I found the whole process quite arduous. But I obviously got there in the end.
And is that how all the other upgrades to Horus kind of spawned from?
Essentially from my initial list of what I thought would be fun ways to traverse through a world. Except for the gloves, which allow you to pick up and throw things. But I just wanted to have more interactivity. And also I quite like Mario 2, where you can kind of ride enemies and pick them up and stuff. I always quite like that.
I will say it's the only time I've ever enjoyed basketball in a game. I've never liked NBA games. I detest them because I'm so crap. But I was having the time of my life in the church hall. I just loved it. I was quite happy just shooting.
Fantastic.
Where we were talking about the junk collecting and stuff like that, obviously, like the other part of it is obviously taking it to the salvage yard to cash it in and earn some money so you can buy the upgrades that we've just mentioned from Belittlewoods.
Oh God! I think my mum understood that reference, but.
And then obviously when you do this, I don't know if this might be a bit of a spoiler for you, Rich and Chris, so I do apologise. But when I did this, and I was like, oh, that's the old dude from Steptoe & Son. That's a pretty cool reference. And then he obviously took all his junk that he wanted, and then the rest of it he wasn't interested in because it was literally just junk. And then it cut to the next screen, and it was like, oh my God, it's Big Bertha. And I couldn't believe it. And I was a bit with all the other references that you'd made beforehand, from what we've mentioned with Ant and Dex near the beginning, and Douglas Adams, 2001, and all these other references and stuff. I mean, was that an original part of the game?
Well, as I mentioned, I watch far too much TV and films, so whenever anyone mentions anything to me, my brain instantly references a film or a television show. Although, having said that, ironically, Bertha herself in the game was Sean's idea when we decided we needed some sort of recycling machine. I believe I said to Sean, we need some sort of recycling machine, and Sean suggested.
Bertha. Why not?
Indeed, why not?
And I think the funniest... That's fine. I think the funniest thing with Bertha as well is that I'm not sure exactly when that was on the airwaves, but I was probably far too old to be watching it at the time. So why I know it, I'm not sure.
I think we both were, really, because I think it was sort of late 80s. So I think I would have been sort of 12,
I think probably
13.
I think probably my excuse would have been doing my homework and just having kind of the broom closet on.
Yes.
in the background.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the first thing would have been Bertha.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It was narrated by Roy Kinnear, no less. So,
Yes.
it had some good comedy chops.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously in the game as well, like you created a ton of mini games, and you say about people spending 50, 60 hours in the game trying to collect all the junk and everything, but I'm sure quite a big chunk of that was just playing all these mini games. I mean, like you had like clones of Afterburner and Outrun and like Guitar Hero and things like that. I mean, was that difficult to include into the game?
Not hugely. Thanks to Sean and I's experience, we had worked on similar things over the last 25 years. So it was more of a case of what can we fit in and how quickly can we get something done? It was mainly what would be fun to try and implement. I think the main thing was I wanted an arcade with actual arcade games that you can play, and not just two of them. So an actual arcade full. And also we needed a way for the player to earn money. So having lots of jobs for the player to do in minigame form to earn money other than selling junk, just in case they get stuck somewhere where there's no junk that they can use to buy a train ticket. Sorry, I'm just throwing out spoilers all over the place.
That's all right.
Not a train ticket. Oh, I'm not going to play anymore now. So.
I hate trains.
there are trains.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Thankfully, these trains are empty.
They are, yes.
That's heaven.
There's some sparks in some of them.
There is, yeah. Yeah, I found a couple of those. Thanks, mate.
At the risk of going on a tangent, actually, having what with you being from my neck of the woods, you might recognise the style of the trains when you get to them, because it's
oh God.
It's not the old slam doors, is it?
Yeah, it's the old orange slam doors.
The first class compartments. I love that. Oh, yeah. Amazing. Oh, fantastic. Jason did mention to me when we were talking in the chat, it never really dawned on me at the time, but he said about how you mentioned like early on in the opening, like some of the location was kind of inspired by Sittingbourne.
Yes.
Which I need to know, because I went back and played from the start again, and I didn't see it straight away, so unless I was missing something, unless I'm just trying to, I want to know more about Sittingbourne locale in a video game, which I thought was a sentence I'd never say.
Well, this is it. The high street in the town, which the first arcade is in, is literally sort of half of Sittingbourne High Street.
God.
There's what used to be our Woolworths is the main shop.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
And then there's stuff in either direction, which if you know you're Sittingbourne, you'll
good old DNA toys.
It's DNA toys and Blundell's toys. Blundell's toys was where it was at. That was nuts, that shop.
It was indeed.
Oh, just you walk in Oh man, Jason, you missed it out, mate.
Yeah,
You go in,
Seems
it's
it.
preschool toys at the start.
Yep.
Boys on the left, girls on the left, boys on the right, and it's that all the way through. And as you go through from front to back, the toys get older.
models and
And
trains.
then right at the back, you've got your trains and your model kits.
Yep.
It
Dungeons and
literally
Dragons and
plays
stuff.
like that, yeah.
There's
And
nothing in Essex, Jason. Nothing in Essex.
No, got nothing like that,
This
mate.
is just that shop. I missed that shop.
I
They-
do.
they-
too.
It's funny.
They had a train set set up from, I think it was from like the 60s or 70s.
Oh, the old
but
50p's used to put in
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
but that was it. You used to have to give them like money so that they could
Yeah.
give you like what was essentially a token, which
Yeah.
was like an old 10p or whatever. Because of course it was literally like a 1970s one that was like the size of your hand where you were a child.
You had to put a frothy bit in it.
yeah, it was literally something like that. I can't remember if it was actually pre-decimalisation, but it was certainly literally, it was a coin before I was born that you had to put in this machine.
Things like bringing up Sittingbourne. Am I right in thinking that the whole game opens on the Isle of Sheppey looking at a Richard Montgomery?
Yes, you
It
are.
does, doesn't it? It does.
Yeah, that's where they stood on the cliff
I
looking
sat
out.
there last night and I'm like, they're like on Laysdown Beach looking at the goddamn Richard Montgomery. And I thought, no, that's... And then when Jason said in the chat, oh, they're based on Sittingbourne, I was like, and it all becomes clear.
It's happening on my Nintendo. Like, just-
Yeah. The game opens on the Isle of Sheppey. It's like, what?
That's
My
no good.
mind just melted.
Amazing.
Well, that's it. It is certainly autobiographical in that sense because I was born in Sheppey Hospital because that was our closest hospital at the time.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing.
Wasn't the brick mini game based on the fact that we were in your version of Sittingbourne?
Yes. 150, 200 years ago, Sittingbourne was known for making bricks. And that's actually why the bricks are yellow in the game. People think that they're gold, but Sittingbourne clay is a rich, like ochre yellow sort of colour. So all our houses and bricks in the local area are a weird yellow colour.
That's incredible detail. My God, that's
It's
fantastic.
nuts.
Wow.
And now in
Absolutely amazing.
Sittingbourne, the bricks go through the windows.
Indeed.
I'll be interested to hear, Chris and Rich, when you get to that point, on whether you recognise the characters in the brick minigame.
Okay, I'm excited.
Just out of interest.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that.
I shall get back to you.
Yeah. I mean, out of those mini games, I mean, I think the brick one was my favourite, with the post one being my second favourite, just because of the double packages. I could never time it right. Always missed them. And the worst being the washing up game with those girls.
Yes.
Yeah, again, just because it just got a little bit too frantic for me.
Well, that was us doing International Karate Plus with the bouncing balls.
I love how this sounds way more intriguing because I've not played it. I love getting a taste of it. I'm trying to put it together in my brain. Like, no, I can't picture this. So, looking forward to it. I hope it's not too far away from Chapter 5.
No, I don't think it's that far away now.
I think it's literally Chapter 6. And end of Chapter
fantastic.
6. I think end of Chapter 6 is the town.
And I think
God.
that's, and that when you get to that point, the game really opens up for you, doesn't it?
Yes.
And I think a few people struggle with those opening chapters in some ways because, like you mentioned, Paul, it's very tutorial based and you're setting up the story. And obviously you've got so many different characters that it needs that time to establish those characters and everything. But some, through the cross players where we've had it in our Discord over the last month, and some people were struggling with the opening of the game, and it was like, well, just keep going, because the game does open up, and when it does, it becomes even better. And they did do that, and it's definitely definitely a momentous part of the game when you find all this new stuff to explore. So I'm excited for you to get to that point and see the WhatsApp messages.
So it's kind of like in Breath of the Wild when you see the plateau for the first time, but the plateau is Sittingbourne. So
Yeah, there you go.
the world is mine.
It's literally Sittingbourne train station.
So obviously you guys have had some big news released over this last week, and it's been something that I've been wanting for ever since I've played it the first time around last year. And although it's not the special super duper edition we probably all hoped with a little Horace figure and steelbook, etc., it's still wonderful to hear that your game is finally going to have a physical copy.
Yes, indeed.
Now, this has been released through Super Rare Games, and at the time of recording, it's due to be made available tomorrow, which is the 27th of January. So you can go and get yours ordered from superraregames.com. I mean, you two must be, I don't know, like, very surreal. Is it, very excited? Is it, what emotions are you feeling?
Well, this is it. Personally, I'm a huge fan of physical media, so just being able to have a copy I can put on the shelf and polish every morning is it's particularly awesome.
It's sticking on its little pedestal.
Exactly. I might get one of those little presentation, like, perspex boxes you can put things in. Get a little laser security system for it.
That's it. No, that's the thing with so many games just being kind of downloadable only these days. It's just lovely to be able to say, basically better show it to your mum and dad and say, look, I made this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's quite important, and obviously this is one of the things that Super Rare Games is well known for, making these digital-only games physical, not only to be able to add these games to your physical collection, but for preservation purposes as well. Because eShops shut eventually and games become made unavailable. And this was something I was explaining to my wife only the other night when I was saying, she asked me why I was so excited and said about Horace becoming physical. And she said, well, don't you already own that? And I said, well, yeah, I do own it, but I only own it digitally, so it'd be cool to have a physical. And she couldn't quite wrap her head around it. But I think it is quite important that, some of these digital-only games get made available physically, just for that preservation as well, really. So it must be quite cool for you to know that your game will be able to live on after these eShops shut.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the things that I wanted a publisher for in the first place, was to do things properly. So this very much feels like, a major goal, certainly for us and for Horace the game. So it's just absolutely awesome. Just as you say, being able to save it for posterity, and future generations will be able to play it.
Yeah,
What's
so
the whole Sorry, Sean.
So I was just going to say, is also, like we say, we've both been in the games industry for like over 20 years now, and aside from the plug and play games, I think the only two games I've worked on that have now had a physical release, Terracon, which was the very first game I worked on professionally, and now Horace. All of the others in between have been digital in some way or another.
Wow. Had the whole deal with Super Rare Games, had it been in the works for a while? Was it around the time the game originally released digitally, or was this something that came about more recently?
I think it was around summer, August time last year.
Okay.
George from Super Rare got in touch, and I can't remember what games it was, but they'd already done a couple of physical 505 games, so obviously they were interested in doing Horace. So I think Horace came out digitally on the Switch in October 2020. Yeah. Sorry, thanks to being stuck indoors for 2 years, I have no concept of time anymore. Yes, so then around August time, so yeah, sort of 8-9 months after the initial Switch release was when the deal sort of began. So yeah, I couldn't tell you the exact details because obviously most of it actually went through 505 directly to Super Rare.
That's cool. And like, did you have much say in the, you know, we're getting like little art cards with it. Was it your choices for the designs on those cards?
Yeah, it's sort of half and half. I gave them, I don't know, 50 or 60 bits of artwork, which I was more than happy for them to use in any way. And then they sent me drafts back, and I was just very happy with everything. I think they did a absolutely great job. I think it looks really beautiful, to be honest.
I mean, have you bought anything from Super Rare before?
No, I must admit I'm absolutely terrible.
No, I mean, I've bought a couple of games from them before, and I've always been impressed with the quality of their work and the cards that come with it and such. So yeah, I'm really excited to get my hands on those art cards, and even like the inside of the case cover is a really good choice.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah, I was quite surprised, but really pleased when they picked that picture. To be honest,
yeah. No, it's really cool. And you can. I think it's on the website. If not, it's like the loading bars, isn't it? Of Spectrum game or
it's Commodore 64.
Commodore 64 game with
there's some browns in there as well.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
With a big bit of a picture of Horace in the middle of it. So it's really effective and something I'm just really, really, really looking forward to seeing in real life. So yeah. Just really, really cool news what I heard. So very, very exciting. That's all the questions. No, in fact, that's not all the questions actually, because I have thought of one during the podcast actually, and it's something I've never asked and something I kind of want to know. And where did the name Horace actually come from?
I wanted a old fusty gentleman's name. And I decided to look through philosophers. Obviously, most of them are taken. Couldn't exactly call him Homer. Exactly. But yeah, the reason I say Homer is obviously Horace was sort of next alphabetically, and I was like, oh, I quite like Horace. But then obviously straight away I thought of Horace Goes Skiing, Horace and the Spiders, and various other 1980s Horace games. And I thought, it'd be good to call that, but I think it might be a bit cheeky. And it sort of became the working title, and then it never changed. And one of the first things I said when we signed with 505 is, what do we do about the previous 3 or 4 games called Horace that I feel slightly cheeky of stealing their name? And I was told that it should be fine because there isn't actually a game called Horace. And obviously it's a name. So you can't exactly copyright someone's name. From their legal point of view, they seemed fine with it, and obviously they're a big company. So yeah, I wasn't too worried.
Yeah. So if their men in suits are happy, then we're happy.
Exactly.
Yep, definitely. Okay then. Well, as you guys might know, we're a podcast based on the 1990s, and as you'll hear, I was quite interested to find out like some of your favourite 90s things, and I'm quite intrigued to find out like say one of your favourite 1990s movies. So Sean, is there like a particular? I mean, I know it seems like a really hard question to answer, I think, but like even like a top 3 maybe of some of your favourite 90s movies?
Yeah, so I can probably give you 2 fairly easily. Actually, no, 3. We'll start with number 1, which is probably going to be Total Recall, which I think just makes it into the 90s. I think that was 1990 itself, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 91. Yeah, really loved Total Recall. That's kind of when I started started a university, so that was kind of brought back memories of university to me. And Arnie was brilliant in it. Great film.
It was. I mean, like the pulling the bug out of his nose scene was always stuck with me since I first saw that.
And the eyes popping out on Mars.
Yeah,
Can't be practical.
Yeah,
and the lady with 3 breasts.
Yeah, exactly. And Arnie just going around going, "We need to find Melina," which was always good fun.
That was a pretty good Arnie impression, Sean, I must say.
Thank you. So number 2 would probably then be Demolition Man.
Nice, good choice.
Yeah, and then the reason that Demolition Man's on there is just because I loved
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, well, no, not Sandra Bullock actually. Even it's just the whole the storyline of it. I thought was great. But the main thing with it was up until that point, I don't think I'd ever watched a film with Sylvester Stallone in.
Okay.
I'd never watched any of the Rocky films. They didn't interest me. Not enough spaceships. Yeah, and but I'd always said, Stallone, he could never do Arnie. He could never do a film as good as Total Recall. And then, of course, Demolition Man came out, and it was like, you know what? You've changed my mind, Stallone. You've done a good job. So that would be number 2.
Still unsure what those shells do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the other thing is always it sort of also reminds me a little bit of me and Paul developing Horace to a certain extent as well. There's the scene where they're driving along, listening to the radio channel that's got all of the old TV adverts on it, TV themes. And probably 9 times out of 10, whenever we had a Skype chat to discuss any development work, the last 15 to 20 minutes would probably be us talking about some random TV show or something. Yeah, some obscure thing that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I managed to get hold of a copy of this.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like when you put that picture of Di-X up on the on Twitter the other day. It was like, I wonder how many people know what that is.
That's the thing. I posted it because I was like, yeah, that was literally my favourite thing when I was 4, 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is Starfleet we're talking about. The old
Starfleet, yeah. Space pirate Barry Hercules.
Indeed.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I think number 3, I'm going to put Ghostbusters 2 in there, just because I can't put Ghostbusters 1. Otherwise, that would be at the top of the list.
Isn't that New Year's Eve, 1989?
Yeah.
We'll let him have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
The last few minutes of the film count.
Exactly. It's a 90s film.
Yeah. But is Ghostbusters 2 as good as the original?
It's not. I don't think it perhaps deserves as much hate as it probably gets at times, but it's not. I mean, it's not as good as the first one.
Also, I won't ruin this for Chris, but I do appreciate the one Ghostbusters 2 reference I did see in Horace, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I haven't got that far yet. So.
Didn't describe it, but you know it's there.
There's a Ghostbusters 3 reference as well coming up.
Well, that depends on how you define Ghostbusters 3.
Oh, that's true. They've muddied the waters now, haven't they?
Yeah, not the true not the true Ghostbusters 3.
Well, we're all quite big Ghostbusters fans here, and so it's really cool to hear that you chose Ghostbusters 2 in your top 3. And what did you think of Afterlife?
Oh, Afterlife was brilliant. Yeah, they done a brilliant job on that. So much so it's my birthday in a couple of weeks' time, and that's going to be the Blu-rays on my birthday list. I'm just hoping there's going to be a really good director's commentary or something like that. It might be the first time I've ever actually listened to a director's commentary on a DVD.
You guys got that pre-ordered, haven't you, Richard, Chris?
Have indeed, yep.
Not pre-ordered, not at the moment.
Shocking.
Yeah, I
Tut-tut.
just, I haven't got a 4K player yet, so...
And?
Well, yeah, I've got other film. I've just forgotten about it. It's on your browser, and I'll go back there, or I'll find it somewhere else, and then you forget about it. And then it's up in conversation, and then you're like,
And I think the other problem is there's nowhere to actually buy DVDs and Blu-rays in most towns these days. I mean,
True.
My local town, we've got an HMV that opened up just before Christmas, so there is somewhere now. But up until then, you only had Tesco, and that was a very woeful selection.
That's what I was going to say. There's a Sainsbury's down the road from me. You can get all the Michael McIntyre stand-up DVDs you want.
Oh, brilliant. I'm there now.
It's always like the top 10 films on the chart, and then like some Fight Factory films with like Vinnie Jones and
that's
some
the problem
MMA film.
Down on the island, all we've got are supermarkets. We've got nothing else. So we've got no access to, like... You can't just go and flick through hundreds of DVD cases unless it's in CEX, which I avoid anyway, because I just do. So yeah, it's all online.
Yeah, it's the sign of the time, isn't it? I mean, like where we talked about Super Rare Games and their efforts to preserve digital-only games. Film and TV seems to be going, more and more and more digital. We think back 25 years... We'd all be sitting in the Blockbusters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of...
How many times trying to choose a film, and now we could just sit on our bums on our couch and do the same thing.
Yeah, and stream it or download it and just watch it within seconds.
Yeah. I mean, if you take something like one of the big hit shows, like something like Stranger Things, for example, obviously you can only watch that on Netflix. I don't believe you can... I'm sure there's not a DVD release of it at all. So... What's going to happen?
There is Stranger Things DVD sets, isn't there?
Oh, is there? Okay, I'll stand corrected then. But point being that if there wasn't, then 15 years from now, you're going to say to somebody, "Oh, do you remember Stranger Things?" Yeah. Oh, yeah, and you can't show it to them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know Disney Plus have said they're doing it with all their shows. Like, you won't get Mandalorian or Boba Fett on like Blu-ray. You won't get any of the Marvel shows on Blu-ray.
There's a better example then.
Terrifying. Sorry.
But it is as well. But I mean, considering I think they'd probably make quite a lot of money putting it on a physical media, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
That's it. And then they could release it again in 2 years' time in a steelbook, and then again with an R2-D2 emblazoned on the front, even though he's not in it.
Well, I want the 1980s pirate VHS edition, sort of slightly blurry with silhouettes of people sat in front. make it feel like the version of Return of the Jedi I saw in 1983.
A couple of sneezes and someone
exactly.
Because even pirated movies are good quality these days. God damn it!
I think I've got an old original Ghostbusters DVD release. I think it was a Region 1 one. And the director's commentary on that is done in like the Mystery Science Theatre 3000 style with the silhouettes of people watching the show. Yeah.
I've got Muppets from Space, and they do a similar thing of that with Fozzie, Kermit, and Gonzo. So
brilliant.
Okay, Paul, let's move over to you. Let's find out what some of your favourite 90s films were.
I think I may have ruined that by saying Muppets from Space. My three favourite 90s films are, Muppets from Space. In 1999, a friend and I went to the cinema on Boxing Day at, I think it was 7:30 in the morning, to watch Muppets from Space followed by Mystery Men. And those are...
That's an interesting double bill.
it's brilliant.
Yeah. You know, you,
Oh, wow.
you sit there someone had to think that through.
Oh, it was in a multiplex. It was it was in a 7 or 8 cinema, a screen cinema. So we watched one and then we watched the other in another screen. It wasn't like someone going the kids will love Mystery Men.
Probably the best Smash Mouth on Boxing Day. You know?
I was just like, what? That's as bad as us doing the Russian roulette at the cinema, wasn't it, Rich? About 20 years ago.
I don't remember that. Sorry.
Go and see a random film just because we could.
Was it Garfield? I think it was.
Yes, it was Garfield.
Garfield twice, if I remember right.
Twice.
Bill Murray will thank you.
Because I think in defence of that, we went to see another film and it was sold out on all the screens, so we just went to see Garfield instead of going home.
Nice. Wasn't that bad?
At least it wasn't the Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I'm surprised you said it was Muppets in Space. I was expecting to say Muppets Christmas Carol.
I do like Muppets Christmas Carol, but I don't know. I like Gonzo. So obviously Muppets from Space is just an hour and a half of Gonzo. That was great fun. So I think I would have been 22. And so was my mate, and everyone else in the cinema was like middle-aged parents and very small children. So that was great fun. And then we watched Mystery Men at whenever it would have been sort of 9 or 10 in the morning, and it was just deserted because it was a film no one had heard of on premiere day at 10 o'clock in the morning on Boxing Day. But we'd seen the trailer and something else and decided it would be really cool to go to it. It's still one of my favourite films. Yeah, and I guess I should say the third one is Groundhog Day.
Good choice.
Good choice, yeah.
Okay.
How many times did you see that in cinema?
I never actually saw that at the cinema. First time I saw it was renting it from Blockbusters. But I did instantly watch it again the second it had finished. I literally reran the tape and just started again.
I was just I have to ask that question. How many times did you watch Groundhog Day?
Such a great film. There's so many parts. We covered it in one of our episodes that we've already done. But
the question is, did anybody ever do that storyline prior to Groundhog Day?
I believe there was a story similar to it with a character reliving. I think it was like 15 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. It was like
it's got to have been done in the Twilight Zone as well.
That's what I was going to say. I think it was something to do with the Twilight Zone or Outer Limits or something.
Because I know it's a sci-fi trope that has been constantly done even today.
Yeah,
it's been done.
The Doctor Who was that this Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah,
definitely been done. Star Trek.
Star Trek's Cause and Effect, and
yeah,
Discovery's one with Rainn Wilson. That little mini episode they did. I forget a lot of Discovery because I just choose to. But
I think that scene in Groundhog Day where he's in the restaurant and he's just eating as much shit as he wants.
I love that scene.
It's just a dream, isn't it?
It's just amazing.
Okay. Well, I think we're nearly out of time, but I think I just want to find out just a couple of your favourite TV shows from the 1990s, and then we'll let these good people go. Sean, is there any TV shows from the 90s that you look back on quite fondly?
I've started rewatching The X-Files on Disney Plus, so that's 90s, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else was. Maybe a more obscure one. Does anyone remember Erie, Indiana?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah. That was really good.
One of your favourites, isn't it, Chris?
Not a favourite. It's just one thing I always remember. It's like one of my first early memories of summertime TV when you were a kid.
Channel 4, wasn't it?
And it was midday on summer holidays, and I was like, "What's this?" And then you find out it was made so early in the 90s. You think, Christ, and I just remember going, I like this. Kind of X-Files for kids. And I was like, this is quite cool.
Yeah. I don't really remember much about it other than really enjoying it at the time. And that Joe Dante was involved in it. And
Yeah.
I think he directed the first few episodes, didn't he? Something like that.
Yeah. It's quite heavily involved, actually.
Any other TV shows, Sean?
That's the two that spring to mind. I'm trying to think what else was. Oh, Buffy and Angel and all that kind of stuff. Stargate Sg-1, I suppose that would have been 90s? Or was that 2000s?
I don't know, actually.
I'm not sure.
Chris, you normally know all these kind of facts.
What was that, sorry?
Stargate Sg-1. Was that
No,
90s?
it was 90s. 97.
97, yeah. Sg-1 then. That's probably the top of the pile, actually, Sg-1.
It's a show I haven't revisited in many years.
Yeah. I never really watched Stargate Sg-1. I wish I had. I think I would have really enjoyed it. But I was more into Star Trek at the time. So that's where my attention went.
Yeah, pretty much the same.
I was Space Precinct and nothing else. I don't do Star Trek, I'm afraid.
No, we're trying, but it's not working, is it?
You're failing.
Yeah.
But at least you watched J.J. Abrams free, and that's good enough for me as a casual viewer. So.
Yeah.
Paul, what about yourself? Any favourite TV shows from the 90s?
It's a little bit of a cheat, but I'm a huge fan of Grange Hill. I've been re-watching it from the beginning since just before Christmas, and I've just hit series 18, which is 1995, so slap bang in the middle of the 90s. Yeah. Unfortunately, they've only ever released up to series 10 on DVD, but thanks to the good people at YouTube, everything is easily available to watch in...
Watch that in reverse and slightly blurred.
Yeah, I was going to say, in 240p recorded off of 25-year-old VHS tapes.
Copyright infringement intended.
Exactly. They get taken down regularly, but I think people put them back up so quickly that it doesn't really matter.
And if you're lucky, you get to see the end of a Jackanory first.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
God, I have not watched Grange Hill since I was a kid. That must be quite a journey, going back and watching that.
It's good, yeah. It's shocking for what is essentially a kids' program.
There were some strong storylines in that.
There were, even for adult programs these days, it would be considered quite strong. A 15-year-old on heroin.
Yeah, that was Zammo, wasn't it? Shooting himself up.
It was indeed Zammo.
Did you spot the Grange Hill references?
I haven't seen the heroin yet, so. Oh my god! Wow.
And I don't know how true this is, right? I don't know if someone's like just trying to wind me up or what. But where you mentioned Grange Hill, it's just reminded me of Biker Grove. And apparently, like, I don't know if I'm making a fool of myself here, but apparently, like in the very last episode of Biker Grove, like there was some kind of like really weird ending to this show. Has anyone heard of this?
Yeah, it went really meta, didn't it?
Yeah, like there was like they all had to press a button and it like destroyed the universe or reset the universe or something like that.
Yeah, and lots of the characters started to become aware that they were characters and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'd watched Biker Grove now. This sounds amazing.
I think it was only for like one episode or like literally, as you say,
apparently
like
it was the very last episode.
Yeah.
And I've not heard it. I heard this from somewhere else, I can't remember where. And like Paul said, they all started to become aware that they were characters within a TV show or whatever. And they had to press this button or whatever to reset the universe or some weird shit like that. It's very, very strange. Like, considering how real life Biker Grove was.
I thought it peaked at Ant getting blinded by a paintball.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
So I've now got imagine Ant and Dex sat in a little room, little desk, sort of with mics on, telling their younger selves what to do.
Not drive a car.
Like, come on.
Don't drive a car.
It's like,
Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
Didn't see that ending coming.
No, but I'm glad it's not just me.
That's some batshit crazy shit, that is.
I need to watch that now. Oh, I'm doing that.
That's like
Weird.
Black Mirror meets like The Matrix meets
Grange Hill.
It's Grange Hill, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other TV shows, Paul?
To go with a completely obscure one, a TV show from 1993 on the Fox network, shown on Sky in this country, was Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Ooh. Brilliant show. Awesome show. Yeah.
I bloody loved that show.
Yeah.
It felt like it was from the future, and having watched it recently, it bloody is, because it feels like young Sheldon and the Goldbergs and everything else that's on these days.
Yeah. Synchronized swatches and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
For anyone that's unaware of the show, what was it about?
It was essentially a rip-off of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, as in cocky teenager at school does cocky teenager things. But yeah, it was basically it was three teenage boys doing, I guess, what becomes sort of cliched things these days, but at the time it wasn't so cliched, in that they would steal tests so that they could get all correct grades and, I don't know, just generally fool around and trying to pass high school. I think it ran for 3 or 4 series, and of course by the end of it all the cast were like 23, far too old just to still be in high school. But yeah, it was very good and remarkably ahead of its time. It had some Malcolm in the Middle style stuff as well, whereby Parker Lewis himself would often talk directly to the camera whilst other characters were doing things in the background.
Sounds really cool, actually. No.
And linking into my SG-1 selection, Corin Nemec, I think it was, played Parker Lewis.
It was, indeed.
And he was the guy who took over from Richard Dean Anderson. Not from Richard Dean Anderson, from
Michael Shanks.
Michael Shanks, yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I often wondered what happened to him after that, because
I don't think he's been in anything else much.
They all kind of like disappeared, didn't they? Like,
Yeah.
like Claudia Black, wasn't she? Farscaping and that, and then she turns up in an Uncharted game or two, and I'm like, what?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I was like, and yeah, like you said, these people just disappear into the ether somewhere, and then.
Well, yeah, I might have to look into that TV show. Paul, it sounds really cool. Can you get that on YouTube?
I believe it is all on YouTube, because I believe they only ever released the first series in true early 90s style, when they never used to release anything.
Yeah.
But I certainly have copies of all of it, so I could sort you out one way or another.
Sweet. Excellent. On original VHS?
They're definitely VHS copies, which I've got. They've got proper 1993 idents on Fox TV and everything. Yeah,
because it was on Sky One, wasn't it? So I always think of the crap announcer from Sky One.
Yes,
it was like, next on Sky One, it's Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and it's like, no.
God, it must be quite a blast from the past, going back and seeing some of the old Sky logos and graphics.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Proper circle with the one.
Yeah, the dun 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 da, 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 da.
That's exactly the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, this is Sky One, a part of the British Sky Broadcasting Network.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Well, on that beautiful note, we shall let you two get to what's the rest of your evening, and let these good listeners get on with their day. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure having you on.
Lovely, thank you for having us.
If anyone that's listening would like to find your work, where can they go to do so?
I am at Horace Dev on Twitter. I do own paulhelman.co.uk, but there's nothing there.
But at least you own it.
Yeah. That was the idea.
Yeah.
Is there plans to put something there in one day?
It used to be full of my CV and portfolio when I was doing freelance work, but I took it down when I started working on Horace. I do plan to sort of turn it into some sort of Horace shrine, but I haven't got around to doing it yet.
That sounds nice.
Please use vintage HTML.
Sorry?
Please use vintage HTML.
I know nothing else.
That would just be like a website dated, last updated 2022. What?
Yeah.
That would just be the nut.
And it still uses the centre tag.
Yeah.
Oh God! Wow.
I'll put this website has been visited by the amount of people in one of those scrolling number things.
Yeah. So you've got a guest book as well. I need a guest book.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then just fill it with random animated GIFs.
Yeah.
Just like everywhere. For no reason.
A guest book and a message board.
And of course, one of those beautiful Flash games, Hamster in a Blender or something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh no, hang on, Sean, you made a beautiful Flash game where you didn't you feed fish to?
Oh God, yeah.
It was some.
Oh God, yeah. Yes, yes. It was Feed Celine Dion.
That was it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't it Sea Lion Dion?
It was Sea Lion Dion, yeah. Yes.
Sea Lion Dion.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Celine Dion fan for obvious reasons. So I was learning JavaScript and, basically kind of stuck her head on a sea lion's body. And then there was various fish you could click on. And her mouth would just sort of move Terry Gilliam style. And the fish would disappear. Wow. And when she'd fed her all the fish, she would explode. So, yeah.
That's some epic stuff.
That's top entertainment right there.
Indeed, yeah. 10 out of 10.
Absolutely.
Does it still exist somewhere?
Sadly, no. The only copy of it would have been on... whatever ISP it was I had at the time, MetroNet, I think it was. It haven't existed for years. So
is it worth checking archive.org for it?
Yeah, or even check YouTube. Imagine if it just turns up on YouTube.
Someone found it.
You never know.
Yeah, that's it. But no, I mean the only other thing, my only other claim to fame that is about there is a game that I wrote when I was 16. Ended up on Dara O'Brien's Go 8-Bit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. There's when they were talking about Whack-A-Mole, there was a game called Ouch shown on there, which was a game I wrote on the Amiga. So there's me watching Go 8-Bit, and all of a sudden, hang on, that's my bloody game!
I was about to ask, did you know they used it or not? And you answered the question.
No, not at all. This is the biggest shock I've ever had.
Would you was like on the phone the next day going, where's my royalties? Come on.
Yeah, no, I was onto Twitter the next day to say, hey, you used my game.
They went, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I got kind of like little replies back from, I think, Ellie and Steve, and Rob as well as the behind the scenes guy there. So that was nice. Yeah.
Good. Well,
Yes.
they're very
Sorry,
exciting.
you were trying to close things down there.
No, that's fine.
We went off on one again.
Carry on about
This happens
Sea Lion
every
Dion.
time.
Yeah, we're used to tangents. It's fine. It's fine.
What's your favourite rip-off Lidl product? Now
So yeah, that's a conversation.
Oh dear. The sad thing there is I'm trying to think what it would be.
What was the best one you found, Rich? For minstrels, wasn't it?
There was Miracles, and then there was the What's It, well, What's That? And I thought
What's that?
fantastic.
That's it.
I love the fact that their crisps are made by Snacky Cracky,
Yeah.
which is a great name.
I still think Professor Peppy just takes it. That runs through that. And grabs the gold, and it grabs the gold medal for this.
Oh my god.
This should be a tradition. Every guest we have on. So, what's your favourite budget supermarket rip-off brand?
Excellent. Sean, where can people go to find find yourselves?
So I'm on Twitter as at BigBoo80s. But yeah, I don't know if it's worth following me or not because I never post anything. It's mostly just retweets of Horace stuff. So
I mean, that sounds worthy of a follow if I ever heard one. So
No, good.
yeah, good people go and do that. So that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you all for listening. You are all wonderful people, and please spread the word on Horace. It's such a wonderful game with such a wonderful story, and very rewarding that as many people as possible really need to play this game. So, especially with the physical coming out this week, perfect time to pick this up. And if not, you can find it on Steam, can't you? And on Switch, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, is there any noise about getting it onto Game Pass or something like that? Or can you not answer that?
Not currently. I mean, I'm constantly trying to push 505 to let us do more. But yeah, nothing definite as yet.
Well, that's the next target. Now we've got the physical. The next target is to get this game on the Xbox or even the PlayStation, so as many people can check this game out.
Yeah, we did talk about doing an Amiga version, but that's probably a step too far. Yeah.
Go on Dreamcast. Go on Dreamcast. That's a big scene at the moment.
Yeah.
That'd be incredible. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Dreamcast could probably do a reasonable version, to be honest.
Yeah.
They probably could, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be up for playing that.
I'd be all over that.
That'd be amazing. You can also hear me and Rich talk video games with Andrew and Steve on the Dreamcast Years podcast.
There you go.
Yeah, nice link there. And I can also be found over at the Cross Players. You can find those on Twitter at Dreamcast Years and at the Cross Players. You'll also find a Linktree link in the show notes, which contains all our links, including our website, Twitter handles, and more. Final words, Richard, Chris, you got any of those to this week?
Ooh, nothing profound for me this week.
No. Pretty,
Sorry.
it's one of those guest spots, isn't it? Like, I don't have anything else to add.
Fine. Paul and Sean, have you got any final words before we go?
Be excellent to each other.
And party on, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
It's funny you should say that, because I clocked those guys in the opening of Horace. And
Excellent.
I was like, the bottom left? No. So, yeah, there they are.
They certainly come back.
Oh, wow.
Well, my name's been Jason, and you've been listening to What's Wrong with Wolfie, a 90s podcast to the max. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Janelle. What's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking.